All right, Ian, we haven't talked about a top video game list in a while.
We haven't.
It's been a while.
God damn it! Stop
My
it.
voice is back enough to do that. So IGN just put out a top 100 video games of all time list. This isn't like it doesn't seem like it's like a user submission because there's like a graphic on it. It's by Justin Davis. I was alerted to this on Twitter by our pal Norm, the gaming historian. And the first thing that Norm noted was that the release date for Super Mario Bros. 3 was 1998. So he took a little jab on it. It probably meant 88 because 88 is the year.
Yeah.
I believe it came out in Japan, and it was a year later. Was it a year later here?
Year and a half.
Here. Well, it was early 90 here, right?
Yeah.
I was just right. It was Easter. You know why I knew it was Easter? Because my dumb cousin Chris got it for Easter, and I didn't.
Your cousin's real dumb.
Yeah. Anyway.
What a dumb cousin.
Anyway. So, did you go through this list, Ian?
I did. And honestly, I mean, there's weird entries everywhere. But
We can run through it quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll start walking through some of these. So the list, we've got Pokemon Go at 100, which honestly, at some point I'm not gonna find Pokemon Go being on a list being all that weird. Borderlands 2, Divinity. See, the lower portions of these lists never really do a whole lot for me because it's so nebulous, and I think that's where people just like to throw a lot of stuff in there that they think deserves recognition, but not necessarily, ranks somewhere. It's when you get to like the top 25, the top 35 that I start to, judge the choices a bit more harshly.
Here's the thing. It's hard to say what's the best game of all time. Is it the best? Is it the most influential? Is it historically significant? Is it the best of its genre? Or the greatest example of genre. To me, you have to combine all those elements in. For something like Tecmo Super Bowl should be on the top 100 list. I don't care if it's a sports game. It was one of the best sports games of this generation, and people still play it today and update it. For me, a game like that should be on the top 100. A game like GTA 3 should be on the list because it's so influential in terms of the open world, and that sort of created the formula for open world games going forward. Legend of Zelda should be on the top 100 list just because. Things like that. Pac-Man, you can argue, can make the list because it exploded arcades. So there's different criteria to add, to put on the list. So just be consistent, though, on what your list is. So my problem before we go through these is that like 80% of these games were made within the past 15 years on this list.
Sure.
And that just shows a lack of knowing the history of video games. And that's a mistake. And that goes along a line of not just ignoring the past, but that means what? Any new game that comes out that's great, you're going to have to bump up an older game from the list just to make a new one. And that's what they even explained themselves in IGN. They did a rundown of their changes to this list. Like Ocarina of Time was bumped out of the top 10. Breath of the Wild was added to the top 10. They swapped Portal and Portal 2. The placement of Halo and Halo 2 was swapped. God of War 2019 was added. Smash Melee was swapped out for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So right there, it's like, well, if Melee was great, it should still be in the list, not swapped out entirely for a game that's a newer version of it. I don't get that at all. I mean, personally, I don't. That's like saying, well, we'll swap out Super Mario 3 for a newer Super Mario game. It's like, no, it's still great.
You don't necessarily, I don't agree with the swapping out. If Melee, and I don't like Melee, but if Melee stands on its own merits, the new version is not always a better, shinier version of the game. There's differences. There's things that change between them. There's reasons why people liked Melee. Melee didn't need to be changed or reassessed because it's old and now Ultimate is out. It just needed to be, there just needed to be an assessment of where it should be on the list. Just because Ultimate would be on the list doesn't mean that Melee couldn't be.
They said then how did they choose it? So people was like, Ultimate over Melee. This is them writing. No more Wind Waker. We try to make room for more franchises, capture our staff's loud opinions, and focus more on the best games rather than the most influential ones. That's a separate list we're planning to make soon.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. I do think there is something to be said about having a difference between influential and best.
But then if you focus on best, by even their standards here, this is why we have for the newer version, there'll be less and less older games on this list they don't consider best just because they think, I guess, to me, inherently, they think the quality of the newer games are better than the old ones because they have better graphics, even in the old franchise. Like we swapped out, let's see, they're adding newer versions of, let's see, what was the one I just saw? They swapped out like a Fallout Fallout 3 was swapped out for Fallout New Vegas. So we'll just keep updating.
Wait, Fallout what?
Fallout 3 was swapped out for Fallout New Vegas.
Well, I mean, honestly, depending on when the list was, I feel like that's a reasonable swap.
They removed Grim Fandango. They removed Metal Gear Solid 2. They removed Team Fortress 2. They removed Warcraft 2. They removed Oregon Trail. They removed, so they're getting some of these influential games out of there.
Well, I mean, but then again, it's also
Warcraft 2 not being Warcraft 2 is a God. That's almost
getting
underrated.
Rid of some of these games, though. I mean, it doesn't mean that the original list was right and this one is now wrong. Some of these things need to be reassessed.
But let's go through it then. I'll just run through them. Super Mario Bros. 3 at 100. Okay, that's
not at 100. That's at 6. It's the way the list is done. It's weird.
Oh, it's done weird. They put 6 first.
No, it was because I followed the link for 6, and now if you just start scrolling down, it goes from 100 to 1.
Pokemon Go 100. Okay, Borderlands 2, Divinity: Original Sin 2. These are all within the past 10 years. Dishonored 2012. Final Fantasy 7, the original, at 96. Okay.
See, that's an interesting drop, and I think that's an interesting one to me because I mean, for years that game was constantly in top 25s.
And I was like top 25, top 30s. Okay.
But I mean, I think it's fair too. As time has gone on, and people have looked at it differently, and the hype has died down, and other better RPGs have come out. I can see where in a 20-year time span, something like Final Fantasy 7 would no longer be held in that regard, and that's fine.
Okay. I'm going to count the games before 2000, by the way, as we go through this. So far, we have none. Right? We have none so far until this one. That's 1.
I was going to say Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah, it's 1. Okay, Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. I don't know anything about that game at all, or Assassin's Creed games. Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge. Okay, Ian, you're a fan of that series?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Burnout 3 Takedown from 2004. You know anything about the Burnout series?
Yeah, it's a really good game. I mean, none of these games are necessarily... I'd say Burnout
2,
should be on there.
Undertale, that's the indie darling on here. League of Legends. Okay. That's highly Mega Man 3. That's what we want to see. You usually see Mega Man 2, not Mega Man 3.
I've seen it seems like it's a 50-50 split between people.
Okay. Mega Man 3 took every lesson from Mega Man 2 and expanded, refined, and remixed it. So already they're updating the newer version of it. Soul Calibur absolutely deserves to be in the top 100, I would say. If you have to limit to like 3 or 4 fighting games, that should be there. Thief 2 The Metal Age, that's a weird one. Just because I never heard that one being as well regarded as the first one back in the day, and I thought that Thief 2 was buggy. I remember playing Thief 1. I never played Thief 2. I never heard that one being SimCity 2000. Absolutely, SimCity 2000 was a great game. Really expanded and defined the mold of the series going forward. Inside from 2016. I've never heard of that. Inside.
It's a great game. It's weird that it's on the list though.
Contra. Now here's the thing, Ian. I'm not sure Contra makes the top 100 list, and I love Contra. I don't know if that deserves to be on the list or not.
Oh, I think it does.
I'm just saying I don't think it. Maybe or barely makes it.
That game is a fucking masterclass in control tuning. That game is that.
I'm not saying it's not one of the best running shooters, but I guess I would maybe put it in the 90s then, and I love it. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. I don't know much about that series, but I hear that's it's fantastic for a skating game. I have to add one more to the top before 2000. Monster Hunter World from 2018. It's almost like too soon to put these on the top 100 list. They're too new, some of these.
I mean, it was incredibly well reviewed. The expansion came out. It's been incredibly well reviewed. I think it is probably one of the best online games I've played.
Resident Evil 2, the remake, which just came out. System Shock 2.
That's actually, I like that.
99. Grand Theft Auto Vice City. See, putting that and not GTA 3.
See, I'm surprised they didn't put San Andreas. So at that point, it just comes down to personal opinion.
Okay. That's from 2002. Persona 5. Came out a couple years ago.
See, now that's an instance where I'd argue they chose that one because it's the latest and greatest. It's a good game, but I think there's arguments that it could be any number of Personas.
Our favorite Battle Royale game, Fortnite's at 77. Okay. Fable 2.
Deserved. I'd hate to say it, but deserved.
GoldenEye. Would you put GoldenEye in your top 100? I would not.
I think that deserves to be somewhere on influential because as far as a console game, it was very. I mean, it wasn't influential necessarily in terms of FPS, but it was very influential on consoles.
Sure.
I mean, after that, you saw everything trying to do some battle royale modes. But as a great game, no, even the people who come into the store and buy it all the time now are like, hey, it's not so much fun anymore.
If that's on this list and not Wolfenstein, I will throw something.
Well, Wolfenstein definitely shouldn't be, and neither should that.
Well, I would say Wolfenstein 3D makes the list before GoldenEye does.
No, neither of them make the list because they're not fun to play. These are top 100 games.
Wolfenstein. Okay, we have a different disagreement. What should
Doom
make the list.
should be on here. That not
versus Wolfenstein.
Yes, versus Wolfenstein.
Smash Brothers Ultimate. Okay, they swapped out Melee. Okay. Elder Scrolls 5, Skyrim. People love that game. Yeah, XCOM, UFO Defense. There's a lot of strategy games and stuff like that already making the list for the older PC stuff and no other genre. That's interesting to me. That's really interesting to me. Suikoden 2 from, what was that, 99? Okay. Battlefield 1942. Okay. That's an important game. I'm not sure that makes the list, but I mean, I played that. That was important for like massive multiplayer battle at the time, but I don't. That's an interesting one to me. Because that to me is be more influential than being a great game, at least to me. That makes the list. Dota 2, no, anything about those are MOBAs. I know nothing about those. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So I guess if you're gonna pick one Mario Kart game, I guess you would do that.
I do actually. I've made that argument with people before. I've said it. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe to me is just about the perfect Mario Kart, and
or even just regular 8 was great.
It has rendered almost all prior versions of it useless. I know people love Double Dash, and I think people are getting over 64 to a point, but people love 64. But honestly, it would be hard for me to argue that 8 Deluxe is not the best one.
Gotcha.
It's just got everything you could possibly want in it.
Okay, sorry, I'm getting my counter wrong on the post. Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast. I never played it. I do know that I remember there was a lot of PC lists, like best PC gaming lists in the late 90s that cited Jedi Knight, the original, Dark Force 2, as one of the top 5 PC games ever at the time. And obviously, it's an important series. Spelunky from 2012.
It belongs on there.
See, this is what I mean, Ian. So now we got Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong is a fun game, but is it most influential or greatest? Because Donkey Kong Jr. to me is a better game than Donkey Kong. It just is. In terms of mechanics, in terms of what you can do, in terms of variety of gameplay. So that's what I mean. This list is already kind of weird to me. It doesn't abide by its own rules. The Sims, sure. Why not? Is the first one better than the later ones? I don't know. Rock Band's on here. Okay. Red Dead Redemption 2. People love it. Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. I know nothing about the Splinter Cell series.
Bizarre to you? Yeah, that's a weird one. That's kind of out of nowhere.
Yoshi's Island, 5 stars according to a certain Super Nintendo guidebook. That deserves it. It's a great game. Silent Hill 2.
There.
Is that worth it?
Yep, I would say so. Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. As we go up this list, I went through it, and I just couldn't get as angry about the choices as I think everyone else did.
Let's go to top 10. Get through this.
Because San Andreas is at 58. I'll run through the top. Let's see. Let me hit 25 here.
Miss Pac-Man's at 47.
That's what I'm saying though. Like those bottom levels, that like bottom 50 of any of these lists is always going to be a messy thing. Here's an interesting placement, and I don't necessarily disagree, but Earthbound at 44, I have a feeling probably pissed off some people.
Too high or too low for you?
Too low. For me, no real opinion. For a lot of people, I'm certain that's going to be far too low.
Yeah, but there's people that overly love that game. Versus, is it influence versus the best, or it's just people that it was quirky?
All right, Metal Gear Solid 30. God of War, the new one, 29. The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, 28. People love that game. BioShock, 27. Sid Meier's Civilization 4.
You need a Civilization on here.
You do. And I think 4 is a real solid pick if you're going to pick one. I really like 6, but 4 was phenomenal. I played 4 forever. I passed over 5. I did 4 forever. Ocarina of Time at 25. I think that's about right. Ocarina of Time is, age exposes some things, and I think it makes people more willing to drop some of these once long held up icons of greatest games, because that's another one along with Final Fantasy VII that used to always be in the top 10.
All right, let's pick it up.
Minecraft, Halo, Combat Evolved, Half-Life.
Okay. That should be almost higher to me, but
Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, Last of Us, Doom.
Doom at 19. Okay.
It should be, and I'm happy about that.
Was it influential or good? I mean, that's
good. That's the thing. People and people who go back and play Doom are always like, "Wow, it's still surprisingly good. Okay. It's a fun game." Chrono Trigger, Portal, Dark Souls, Street Fighter 2, Super Mario Brothers.
See, that's the thing though. Street Fighter 2. There's a post Street Fighter games.
See, once again, that to me is like that's a weird non-swap. That should be influential, and I feel like something like Super Turbo should be, if you want,
higher.
higher.
Or Championship should be higher even.
Halo 2.
Same with Super Mario Brothers. If you're gonna put that on the list, like Super Mario 3 would be higher if we're talking about actual gameplay.
It is.
That's right.
It's at 6. Castlevania Symphony of the Night at 12. Grand Theft Auto 5 at 11. Super Mario 64 at 10.
The first Red Dead Redemption at 9. Okay. Having that end the second one on the
Half-Life 2. Tetris at 7. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at 5, Super Metroid at 4, Portal 2 at 3.
Portal and Portal 2 on the list. Okay.
That's like me putting Alien and Aliens in my top 5 movies. Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
Weird fucking list.
And Super Mario World is the number 1.
What a bizarre list.
So, like, honestly,
it's fucking bizarre.
From 40 to like 15, everything kind of comes back together in a way where I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but
and then it just kind of like throwing the hot hits and seeing where they land.
Your top 10 has like 7 Nintendo titles, which is weird. That's just weird to me. It's like no more PC stuff anymore with Half-Life 2. It's a weird list. It's not consistent.
I was expecting to hate this list
at all.
More than I do.
No, I hate it more now. I see the top, and these games that should be in the list. The order is all wacky as fuck on this stuff. You think Link to the Past is the second best game of all time?
No. But a list is never going to be perfect, and it's never going to appeal to everyone.
It's weird.
Time is passing me by, and I'm getting older, and I just don't care. I have problems with the construction of the list and the fact that it doesn't seem like it abides by its own rules. It doesn't. I can't get that.
I'm not that upset I'm just saying.
Ranking,
but IGN is a huge video game website, and when you have your 3 Super Nintendo games in the top 4. That's not a consistent list. And that's not to say they don't belong in the top 20 or top 30 or top 40. It's just inconsistent and it's sloppy. Because then you jump and then there's like no Super Nintendo until you like get the Chrono Trigger.
Playing as a devil's advocate who doesn't like the Super Nintendo here. Maybe the Super Nintendo was just a really good system that had a lot of great games on it.
I'm shocked you have not pointed out, Ian, that there is like there's no Sega titles on this list at all.
No, I know. I've noticed that. There's like nothing.
If you want to count, Soul Calibur is Namco. But I mean, like, there's no Genesis games. There's no Saturn games.
The construction of the list is problematic in that it
barely any arcade games.
It looks at the past 10 years of modern games
and overweights them.
It looks at the past 10 years of modern games, and then it goes down the quick who's who of retro games.
Yes, without having any real knowledge or breadth. And there's barely any older PC games in the list either. So anyway, all right, well, it is what it is. We're disappointed. And then people pointed out before that it was so sloppy just in the editorial that when they swapped out games, they didn't swap out the text. So you would say like choice number 74, and then the game description was the old game that used to be in that spot. It was just like sort of sloppy editorial, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. All right, moving on.